Hi, friends. It's Sarah, the fact culture critic. I tried making this yesterday with all like the makeup and all that, but I just didn't. It was a mess. So I'm gonna try a little more, uh, just just, just talking. Um, so the title is kind of clickbait. I'm not about to like do a heel turn to the right. I know I cut off my fun hair, but that was a practical decision. Um, I look even more like someone's old auntie, which I am. So, um, no, I want to talk about this whole idea of the left, this sort of category, identity, signifier. I don't really know what this is anymore. There was this discourse on Twitter, which is always a bad sentence. This person made this statement about how to be a leftist, you should be training. You should be in physical training for the revolution. And like, if that's your standard, then yeah, I'm not a leftist because I can't do that. Disabled people were pushing back because obviously, obviously, this is just completely an ableist take. Um, and some of the people responded to that by being like, "Oh, well, this person needs to expand their idea of what training is. You should be building some ability each of their sort of working off the each according to their ability to each according to their need idea." And then those people like they mean well. They read, that it's and they're not wrong. Um, but they're responding to the wrong thing because the thing is this idea that you have to the idea that the person was putting forth is that you have to perform worth to be part of this thing. That's what they're really saying. That you have to that they're you have to demonstrate a level of ability, and that's treating worth as capital, as a thing you have to earn. That is the mindset that was framing. And I know that the people who don't live in bodies like ours maybe don't see that because you know we, and it's good to take people to good faith reading. It really is, but also like there are dog whistles. um and like we were right because within a matter of no time at all, within like a tweet or two, they were down to, well, you fat fucks can eat whatever you want and sit around. And it's like, oh great, yeah, exactly. We knew this was coming. um we yeah. The emperor has no clothes for us. We know what you meant, especially after the last few years where people who claim to be leftists can't even take basic precautions to preserve disabled people's bodies from this pandemic. and and the way that people are so comfortable using things like fatness and ability to mock the people they don't like, because and people who are the shittiest people on the planet, but you're not focusing on the fact that they're shitty people who do shitty things. You're focusing on the fact that they um, have difficulty standing for a period of time, or uh, struggle to walk on down steps, or just just the size of their bodies. And to do anytime you push back on that, it's like, oh, well, the poor marginalized billionaires. No. We don't care. We don't we're not asking you to care about the billionaire. It's you're saying that the thing that is shameful about that person is their body. Like I was listening to a podcast about the wives of Henry VIII and by some claimed feminists who were taking glee in talking about how disgusting his body was and joking about calling him Jabba the Hutt, which is something that is specifically specifically something and I bet a lot of fat people have been compared to. Um yeah. I don't care what you think of Henry VIII, but I wonder why you or why you're so happy to talk about how disgusted you are by his body. Um and not like when he was a person who killed his wives and like I just so anyway the discourse, so there was disabled people trying to say like no, this you are demonstrating the shitty worldview here. And a lot of people were like getting angry at disabled people and saying like that it's people who are faking, or it's people using the allegations of ableism to stop the left organizing. And like figures on the left saying like that hey, they're discoursing about is exercise fascist, which no. No. uh Telling other people that they must exercise to be worthy, that's fascist. Telling people they don't belong in your community if they don't have certain abilities. I mean, and actually it's not even correct to call that fascist, because fascists aren't alone in that. Like the common ground that fascists and certain people on the left, well, like certain socialism and communism discourses are about, is like that the individual must subvert themselves to the collective and they must be worthy. Like this is why um eugenics was a feature in the 30s and 40s, both of the left, of which at the time, and in that time we're talking about socialists. Most specifically, socialists were eugenicists, communists were eugenicists, just like the Nazis were. They used different methods, um, but they were both all about the improving the general population by getting rid of useless eaters. Um, and like we know this, if we live in a body that would have been disposed of, and this is disability studies has been working on this, but people enter this space saying that they are leftists, or more that they define what leftism is, and then they don't know that history and they continue to perpetuate that stuff. And so is this a community? Is this a thing we're supposed to aspire to belong to? Like I feel I see this term being applied to so many things, so many ideas. And I keep hearing like the words of a friend of mine who's like a studies tuition design and is uh, an expert in pedagogy, who has this phrase like define your goddamn terms. And what does this term leftist mean? Is being presented as a category, and when I think about it, I think what's who's defining this thing is the right. The right set themselves up as if they're, one side of a spectrum, and then and that flattens the spectrum, and they get to say everybody over there, you're all you're all together one thing. And then the centrists sort of say, well, we're no, we're not them, we're in the center. And all of it is the right defining the conversation, because we just end up with leftism as this miscellaneous box of everybody who is not right and not center. So what does this mean? Does it mean anti-capitalists? Well, why aren't we using that word? Does it mean anti-racist? Why aren't we using that word? Does it mean um, does it mean a non-neoliberal? Does it mean that you're a fan of balding French philosophers? Um, like, does it mean you do leftist theory? Does it mean that you study Gramsci? Does like, and the reality is it kind of means all of these little bits of all of these things, um, and yet we're acting as if this is a stable category, and operating as if it is a thing to build community out of. And I just don't think that it is. I'm not saying we can't organize together. Absolutely not. Like, I think that specificity matters. And if we were specific about what our politics are, then we could build coalitions together. We can be all of the people who a lot of us are anti capitalist and don't share other values. Well, we can organize together around anti-capitalism, but you don't belong in a community with me if you're not, you know, willing to interrogate your bias and about fat people and your thin privilege. If we don't have shared values, we don't have community. If you are not interrogating behaviors, you are not a safe person. And like, think about it the way that the left now includes this group called the dirtbag left, specific, and they're people who are sort of claiming authority on leftism, who want to use the same behaviors that they had when they were, more right wing, or that they were, just sort of teenage edgy shit. and but they've changed theories and not behaviors, and they're still like, I'm thinking about that. If I say his name, it's like Beetlejuice. You say the name and they show up. But like Vosh and his type people, like, who functionally operate the same way as Ben Shapiro. Their ideas are different, but they're using the ideas to bludgeon each other in a debate. And that's that's not actually living out the ideas. That's just having different theories. It's not interrogating your behavior. I'm thinking like about a year ago, Soul Bunny, who is a black trans woman, did this great video where she was talking about the left's problem with racism. Because and because so many people enter spaces of the left without under in any way engaging with, their own bias, their own privilege as white people, and they do harm. They are not safe. If you're not safe in a community, then this isn't a community. And I'm critiquing myself as much as anything. Like, I um get shit wrong, and have made critiques too much about the individual and not enough about the idea. And I have bought into this idea of the left too. Part of part of why I'm thinking about all this is because I'm thinking about my relationship to my party. I do think of the NDP as my party. Um, in that I've voted for them in every election I've been in Canada, even when it was throwing a vote away. And I've belonged to the party for a number of years, on the thinking that if you're part of the party, you can help shape it. But um, I don't know. In the provincial versions have turned into nothing but neolib, and the leadership, they failed to stand up for Sarah Jama, and they're failing to criticize Robinson, and the leader's response was to shame people for how they chose to protest Robinson's racism. That they went to her constituency office and wrote "Free Palestine" in chalk. um, this was threatening and bad. Like, as an Arab person, just what is the point of belonging to the party? When you try to be such a big tent, who's in the tent with you? You can't trust them. I'll still vote for my MP because I like her. um, but yeah, uh, I so yeah, I don't know what to do with this label, the left. I don't know that I want to call myself a leftist if this is what it means. I don't want to do the thing anymore of making myself small to serve some greater whatever that doesn't include that doesn't include basic dignity for all people. When I did my video about resistance and film pride and everything, I one of the things that I was researching was the origin of the song "Bread and Roses" and this idea where the image of the rose comes from in workers' movements and everything. And it comes down to there's this story about a hired girl, as they call her, a serving girl who, when asked what she thought of women getting the vote, was like, "Oh, I get it. It's women are wanting the vote so that everyone can have bread and flowers too." And it's the idea that um, the future, that the hope is for the sustenance of life and the joys of life, that is the aim. And the problem with so much of feminism and leftism and socialism and so much is saying that and then saying, well, who is the everyone? And everyone should have bread and roses too. Because if you're saying to have that, you have to, it's like everyone who is able, is that everyone? Everyone who is white, is that everyone? um Everyone who is thin, you know. Like, um no, she said everyone. um and if you're not working for everyone, like, I don't know what you're doing, but I don't think I want to be a part of it. um, Imani Barbarin, you may know as Crutches and Spice, she said some time ago that her only politics is disabled people. And I didn't really understand when I read that, but I'm kind of coming to understand more about it. Like, I want to ground my politics in justice for marginalized people. Um, and that's complicated. I would rather state my beliefs and work with people who share those beliefs on particular issues than try and contort myself to fit into a category. I never fit into stable categories. Um, Maybe cis, but even then, that's complicated by fatness. But I also have always been pressured, and I think other multiply marginalized people and other multiracial people and immigrant kids will understand the sort of the way that the world, the hegemony as it is, wants to compel you to define what you are, for them to fit into a label that can make sense to them. And I think in a way left is kind of is a larger thing of that. It's is the right sort of going, well, we need to put you in a box, we understand. So that we can scold you when you're not being the tolerant left. um, and yeah, and yeah, I think what it comes down to is being not them doesn't make for an us. And I don't think I'm the person to define what the us is. Um, but I want to follow the more marginalized people because I think that that is how we get to the everyone. And so I don't know what that means, but I know that I am uncomfortable with this category of leftists, and I'm uncomfortable with the way that people use that as sort of an identity label as well, because I don't know, identities are troubling things, complicated things. Ideally, it should be vocabulary for expressing your experience. Um, but you know, vocabulary takes more words. And I actually think it's good to use more words. Um, I think the harder I try to express myself in fewer words, the worse that I express myself. So yeah, but the thing about when something becomes an identity too is that then when it's criticized, when then it's like you're being criticized and people respond as if they're being accused of being a bad person for doing things a bad way. Or and sometimes you frame your criticism badly and it comes off that you are saying that someone's a bad person when you mean that they are doing a bad thing. um, and yeah, then we go back to like this sort of, yeah, that's just messy and difficult. And I don't know, this video is messy and difficult. um I don't know that I have a thesis or conclusion or anything except that I question the merit and the usefulness of this term. I think we should try and put real vocabulary around what our beliefs are. And I know that sort of there is, well, part of what a lot of the left is trying to think collectively instead of individually, because in a response to the neoliberal ideology of everything being about individuality, and the whole sort of thing, like Thatcher's whole thing about the community doesn't exist. Like the response to that is to always be trying to build community and always trying to act in solidarity. But the thing is, like, if you put solidarity above, but seeing people as people, then that, like, if you ask people to subvert who they are, it's like the people who are class reductionists, who want people to put everything that is them aside from the class that they belong to and organize solely around that. And it's like, but then you're missing out on so much of what the person is. And I think we have to find a way to be both a wave and a particle, to be both an individual and an individual in a situation, in a community, in a place, um, that we are both things. Because one of the things about fatness, and I know we're not alone in this, but it is a particular thing about fatness, is that we are um, taught to accept every criticism. We get trained, a lot of us, like if you're a lifelong fatty, you learn to take criticism like water and internalize it and always be wrong, because there's always something wrong with you as to why your body is not doing what it's supposed to, and not shrinking the way it's supposed to. And then you're supposed to make yourself small and be constantly apologizing for not having the body that is the thing. And so, like, part of fat justice, part of facing anti-fatness is to actually stand as an individual and actually say, no, my me I matter. I matter even though I am fat. I matter even though I can't exercise the way you want me to. I may not be able to contribute to your view of a revolution, but I am still me, and I am still here, and I still matter. And if you then say, but no, you have to put all of that aside to be part of the solidarity, to be part of the collective leftist thing, so that we can all serve the greater good. It's like, well, what the fuck greater good are we serving if you're still asking me to put aside my personhood for it? And I'm not talking about anyone in specific, and I think that people are come at that from a good place, because so often people are taught to be in their ego, and so asking people to put that aside for to work together is an important thing. But to recognize that when you're talking to fat people and disabled people, you are often talking to people who have been taught their whole life to put their needs and their self aside because it's inconvenient. And we have just, for the last couple of years, watched the the world just ask us to risk ourselves and watch people like us die, um, over and over again for the economy as the greater good. Um, and watch people who say that they're in community with us not take precautions. And even now, when we're some people's response to the discourse being on Twitter is like, well, you need to get off Twitter and get into the real world. And it's like, well, how it's not safe. And yeah, Twitter sucks. It sucks in so many ways. Um, but also it was a place for um, disabled people and fat people to find community. Um, Even though it is not a safe space for us, because you cannot, when I am attacked for being fat, when I'm insulted, I have never been able to report that as abuse. Not under not under what's his fuck's new what he wants to call the thing. um, that is never, even in the old ones, even on a lot of the replacement ones, we can't report being bullied for being fat as bullying. There's no there is no checkbox for that. There is no checkbox for, you're gonna die, right? Yeah, you're gonna die too, so fuck you. Hell, I didn't even get into the sanism. so many so many people are so comfortable with framing their critique of the right not around the broken morality, but describing it as broken brains or brain worms. It's like, no, these are entirely sane people. They just, their morality is broken, not their sanity. I got all emotional there. It's menopause is fun. So this is like puberty in reverse. Like, hoo uh, time for some mood swings. Yeah, do you want to not sleep and just have like annoying weird sensations and random pain and the other thing to go back to the discourse, like the way that people are fantasizing about the revolution. um so it's kind of a funny thing, but actually, like, members of my family were in one. In the revolution, as you sort of imagine it, or as close to as, yeah. Members of my family were in Tahrir Square. And that, and you know what my cousin did was provide medical care for free while it was happening. And some people would frame that as though he's contributing by his ability. But here's the thing, like, the revolution happened, and meet the new boss, kind of same as the old boss, maybe worse. So, I mean, the revolutionaries tried, but it didn't actually lead to a changed world. Like, well, changed, but not better. But I know that my cousin provided care, and that mattered in that moment. There's a scene I've done a video about it. There's a scene that I love, from the show Angel, where he has this epiphany after he's been trying to fight the fight, and he, wins this battle, and then he's in the and then he gets to talk with one of the leaders in the evil thing, who's just like, well, it's not about the battle. We don't care about winning. We just care about keeping going. And so an angel has this epiphany. He says, if nothing we do matters, then all that matters is what we do here, now, in the moment. So preparing for the revolution, no, it's what matters is what you do. And what you did, the person who made that thing, what they did was ableism. What they did was fat phobia. I know commenter once asked what I meant by calling myself an existential humanist. It was in the um Christmas Carol one, and that is what I mean. Like, that there is no meaning that we don't make ourselves. That what we do is what makes things matter. And I don't mean what we do as terms of ability. I mean what we do when we care in the moment. And I think checking in on a friend who's having a hard time means more than all the words about that all the theory. Um, Not that understanding the theory isn't useful, but it should be in service of caring. And caring means caring about a person as a person. It means valuing them for themselves and not like trying to fix them. So many people think caring is trying to fix someone, save someone. Um, but I don't, yeah, no. I think, it begins with seeing the human in someone. Why I'm a humanist. A humanist who's kind of running out of faith in humanity, but that is a topic for another day. So yeah, those are my kind of rambling thoughts about nonsense. I don't know if I managed to make it into a coherent thing in the edit or not, but yeah, exercise or don't, it's none of my business. Whether I exercise or not is none of your business. Um, it's just not. um, and yeah, like build skills if you want. Not my business. um, but if you want to work on caring, then maybe check in on a friend you haven't checked in on in a while. And yeah, define your terms. Even if it means saying a bunch of things you believe in or whatever, but like I think we have to stop assuming that just because we're not them, that makes us an us. We can make us's, but maybe we're better off making lots of us's, and then seeing where we can do coalition on the thingies that matter, on the particular issues. um yeah, so um yeah, that was a big long ramble. I don't know that I said much that matters, but I tried to sort things through. um so yeah, thank you as always to my Patreon supporters. um uh and their names are appearing in the thingy, and I value your support, and um, it's good that we can support each other. That's it for now.